Evening, everyone. Thanks for, hanging with us through some technical issues. This is Bowling with the Fef. I'm Andrew Pfeffer, and we do this live stream every week. It's a platform to share your unique bowling story. And again, I've got the headphone issues. Not sure why. I'm going to work on that for a second here and hopefully get that taken care of. Yeah. Well, you know, Ben and Ed, we're just going to put you up live, and we'll see how we get here. I'm kind of hearing my voice twice in this, so hopefully this works out well. How are you guys doing tonight?
Good.
You know, sometimes technology just kind of goes haywire, and that's what we're experiencing tonight here on Bowling with the Fef. But I've had a pretty good run, so, you know, hey, you know, we'll kind of take our lumps as they come. But our guests tonight are Ben Witt from Woodbury, Minnesota. He's the gentleman with the medals up in the top left. Ed Kreitzman from Circle Pines, Don't Call Me Minneapolis, Minnesota, in the upper right.
It's called not updating your Facebook page, Fef.
It's not updating the Facebook page?
No, I didn't update mine. That's why it says Minneapolis.
Oh, okay. See, and then what I did was I updated my own because I didn't want to see, now I'm hearing the second version of your voice come through. No, the reason I didn't update, or I updated mine, was because of that whole thing, and I was going to give you a hard time for not having updated yours, but I found that mine was out of date too. All right, so let's start with our conversation here. I'm hoping I can get through it. Like I said, audio issues, which are the worst, but we'll see what we can do here. You know, we do a thing called the first frame on our show, and, you know, this one is kind of about bowling teammates, since you guys were college teammates, and now you're teammates in, we'll call it, the real world. You know, I don't think I'm going out on a limb by saying that one of the best parts of bowling is the friendships that you make, and you guys are really evidence of that. So I guess why don't we start out with Ben, and how did this all happen where, you know, you're college teammates and then you find your way back to being teammates in suburban Minneapolis?
Ed, when it was about like 3-4 years ago, we kind of connected on Facebook. So our Stout team of T, Greg, Justin, Derek, and Andy. Derek and Andy brothers, they live down in Zumbrota. I bowl nationals and state with them. So I've been connected with them for the past, you know, since college as well. And I've been living in the Twin Cities for 15, 16 years. And about, 4 years ago, I connected with Ed on Facebook. And I was like, hey, want to come down and bowl? Is that, yeah, sure. And, it's kind of, that's been it since.
It kind of worked out perfect because I was bowling in a Tuesday night league, and things were just, our schedules were changing around the house. We're just about to have a kid, and I couldn't bowl Tuesdays anymore. So Ben asked me, he's like, you want to bowl on Thursdays? So it worked perfect.
Oh, yeah, that was Thursday at Southbound. That was your first, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, I hope you guys can hear me and each other better than I can hear you, because I've got voices kind of intersecting here. And I can't
Oh,
make
really?
out a thing either of you are saying.
I can hear you just fine.
You can hear me fine. Okay,
Yeah.
that part is good. You know what? Usually with these shows, I ask kind of a question to the group out front, and my question for this particular show would have been, which teammate or teammates have you bowled with the longest? So let me pose that to you guys. Ed, we'll start with you. Are you two the teammates that you have bowled with the longest, or have you had another teammate that you've had more years on the lanes bowling with?
Junior bowling, I think. I bowled with my best friend growing up, Brian Schumacher, probably for the longest time.
Okay.
And then adult, I don't know. I think Ben is.
Yeah. How about Ben? So we'll pose the same question to you.
Actually, coincidentally, Greg Sperber, we went to Stout. We grew up together bowling in Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin, at Apple Valley Lanes. I think I moved up to Door County when I was 8, so that'd have been 89. Got on a league there, and I think we went to different high schools, but we bowled together through juniors, all the way through high school, and then we graduated together, but obviously from different schools, and then both found ourselves at Stout. We bowled for Stout for 4 years, and then I haven't bowled with him since, but I would say the longest probably would be Greg, and then a close second would be Ed, Derek, and Andy.
Yeah. So, of course, before you guys ended up at Stout, you had to start the bowling thing somehow. Ben, why don't we start with you? Where does the bowling story kind of start for you? And I'm imagining it's in Sturgeon Bay, which, if people aren't familiar, is up in Door County. If Wisconsin is a hand kind of up in the thumb there.
Yeah, actually, Ed, you're from Madison, and that's where I was born and grew up till I was 8. So I started bowling at Casino Lanes when I was 3. I don't remember if I was in a league right away at 3, but probably 4 or 5. And then in '89, I moved up to Sturgeon Bay, got in a league. I've pretty much grown up in a bowling alley. My mom, she bowled Monday nights. So we would, I'd come home from school, bring a quick dinner, get down there at about 5, because she would bowl a 3-man league, and then she would bowl a 4 or 5 woman league after. So she bowled back to back. So I was there I probably ate dinner there, and then we got home at like 9:30, 10 o'clock or whatever. But I would sit, it was a 12-lane house, Apple Valley Lanes, and I would sit either on 1 and 2 or 11 and 12 and just practice for like 2, 3, 4 hours. I'd get in 12, 15 games a night or, each week. And then Saturday morning was my, our juniors that started at 9 a.m. Had a pretty good, bowling, mini career. I wouldn't say career, but, just experience. And then went off to college and continue to fall in love with bowling. It'll always be in my blood. And, like you touched on with the lifelong friends of Ed and Derek and Andy and Skinny and Teague and Greg and and even the other schools, you got JJ and Winona crew. Just growing up with those guys, bowling college, it's just been pretty fun.
Ed, how about you? Again, there's that Madison connection, and you started in Madison as well.
Yeah. My parents, my dad bowled ever since he was a kid, and he taught my mom how to bowl. And they took us bowling all the time as kids. And I think I got my first ball when I was 5. It was a Fred Flintstone sparkly ball. And our lanes were the old boulevard on East Washington Avenue. And like Ben said, basically, I grew up in the bowling alley. My mom used to coach junior bowling. And afterwards, we would, my sisters and I would run around the bowling alley eating French fries, waiting for my mom to get all the scores in the computer, and playing all the video games possible. And it was a lot of fun. So I've been junior bowling for, since I was in kindergarten, and took off a couple years in middle school, high school because of football, and then I got right back into it later on in high school. Started bowling on Sundays in the Madison All-Star Traveling League. That was a lot of fun. Then ended up in college.
When your paths intersected at UW-Stout, and Ed, you got there first, if I remember correctly, in the late 1990s. So tell me what kind of adjustment it is to join a new college bowling team and I don't want to say survive, but survive.
We survived the first couple of years. Going into college, well, my dad always told me he used to bowl at Platteville.
Oh, okay.
Back in the early 70s. And so he always talked about college bowling, and I always wanted to bowl in college. So when I went to Stout, brought my ball. Kind of funny, when we went on a tour the year before, it was when Stout hosted the ACUI tournament. So I watched some of the WCBC teams bowl that day that we were there. So I just went to the rec center. I asked about bowling. They said the bowling league was on, I think it was Tuesday nights. And I joined the team. And that first year was it was rough because we didn't have enough guys. Like, we were going to tournaments with 3 or 4 bowlers most of the time. Derek Rude, who Ben has mentioned, he was a freshman the same year I was. And we bowled, and we traveled all over, but we just got crushed because we never had enough bowlers. And our best bowler that year was Carrie Groff, actually. When she would bowl with us, she would just carry us.
Ben, you got there a little bit later, and you guys, like I said, paths intersect, and as you're making your way on the team, things start to click a little bit. I mean, as evidenced by the medals around your neck tonight. You guys start to build up a little steam, don't you?
Yeah, it was funny when I was taking a tour the summer before my freshman year of Stout, because I was, you always tour the college, and for some reason, I lived 4.5 hours away. Me and Mom got in the car, drove over, took the tour, and I think, I don't know if it was common practice for us to always bring our bowling balls, but they were in the car, and we were doing the tour. Ed, if you remember Dan,
Dan Sherrick, yep.
Yeah, his style. He was either down there or giving the tour of the Union Center, and he goes, and I'm like, yeah, I'm really into bowling. He was like, oh, what's your average? And I can't remember what the time, and he's like, oh, that's good. It'd probably be good for the team. And I was like, actually, I got my bowling balls here. He goes, well, let's go throw a few games. So we bowled mid tour. So then.
I'm going to stop here for a while and bowl. I'll catch up to you later.
We'll have a cup of coffee, But no, it was the only adjustment was, I only bowled the first half of the first year for academical reasons. Coming from a small town, not having cable television or a lot of people around, and then all of a sudden you're in the dorms and you party. So I didn't get to bowl the second half of my freshman year, but I came back my sophomore year, and I don't know. I think that's when Skinny showed up. Justin Nunez and Teague was there, and Greg was there, and we just all clicked. I think Andy probably got there at the same time. So all of us just like.
I didn't bowl with Andy.
Yeah, Ed talked about not having a full team the year before to having alternates, where we could sub people out. So it was, we were all just good old boys and got along, and
Yeah.
Fef, I think the biggest was the lane conditions of those unions, man. My first tournament was in Madison, and man, I'm a down and in, straight to the head pin kind of guy, and I was hooking that ball like crazy, and I could keep it. I couldn't get it in the pocket, but I mean, the lane conditions of those unions were wild. Something I've never experienced before.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun. Well, I shouldn't say fun. It was interesting.
No, it was fun I'll tell you, it was fun for us. And that's kind of a difference between the conference now, which back in our day, it was the Wisconsin Collegiate Bowling Conference. Now it's called Great Lakes to account for the fact that some of the schools in the conference are not Wisconsin schools. They've got some from Illinois and other areas. But yeah, that's a different, it's a different environment for somebody who, like really all three of us, grew up in the typical junior bowling house conditions, and then bam, you're in these union houses. Ben, did you I guess adjust pretty quickly to that?
Yeah, I mean, just to touch on what Ed was saying, just with oil conditions, I know to this, I don't know, I wouldn't say to this day, but oil conditions, you're used to always bowling on a house shot for your league, and then some tournaments just a little bit tougher. Over the past 10, 15 years, it's gone to named oil patterns, the Cheetah, the Baron, the different Kegel ones, or whatever. But if you remember, I believe it was Milwaukee, at either Marquette or UW-Milwaukee, we bowled on, I was introduced to the reverse block. So anything outside of 8 or 9 was gone, and anything left of 6, I don't know, 14, 15 was you were shaking the 4 and 7 pin. So yeah, that was to touch on Ed's point of just getting used to that and not the track play that you used to.
UW-Milwaukee, I think that was ACUI my freshman year. That's when I watched Andrew Pfeffer play the one board, and multiple people tried, but everyone failed.
80% of the time,
myself included. Let me tell you. And
plus UW-Milwaukee, when the bowlers got done, they walked up, grabbed a beer, and smoked a cigarette. I'm like, "What's going on in here? This is a union."
Oh, I know, yeah.
Yeah, it was a little different back then, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
No, when guys were so tall that they couldn't bowl like Bus with his backswing, being like 6'5" and.
Oh, you're talking about Scott Bogalski.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. There was just one guy that there was a couple.
It was Scott, lefty,
Yep.
lefty.
Yep.
He hit the screen.
Yeah,
yes. Yeah, he was about that tall, 6'5", 6'7", and his backswing was so high that there were certain houses that he just couldn't bowl in because, he'd hit the overhead screen. But man, when that guy was on,
Don't forget, we had to keep our own score.
That's true.
That was the other thing, is there wasn't scorekeepers at majority of the places, especially at Stout. So we had to keep our own score. I remember that.
Yeah. Tell me what else you remember about the place at Stout. It's no longer there now. What I remember, and I only bowled there a couple times, but what I remember was it was wood lanes. It was fairly well maintained, but the settee area was carpeted. Mm-hmm. So you shocked everything, windscreens.
I forgot about that.
Like that.
I remember my first week bowling there. My first night, actually, I bowled a 297, and I'm like, I think I'm gonna like it here.
Yeah,
I never got close after that.
No. Ben, did you have any big memories from the what was the Memorial Student Center? Is that what it was called?
Yeah. The Union. Our MSC, Memorial Students, MSC. If I wasn't in class, I was bowling or playing pool. I mean, I must have spent Oh, I didn't want to know the hours that I spent down there. And then, you walk across to the little grill area and you got yourself a pond melt with,
The pawn.
oh man, pond melt, no pickles with some crisp cut fries. Woo!
I ended up working there. I ended up working at the rec center. So I did front desk. I oiled the lanes.
Right, yeah.
Me and Justin oiled the lanes. And I spent a ton of time there.
Sure. Were you guys among that group where you had the ping pong tables and they played so much ping pong that the sweat was just dripping off of them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was us bowling.
Yeah, no airflow in there. Ed was always had a towel on his shoulder. Just.
I think our team set the weight limit for most of the tournaments that we were in.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say we weren't all allowed on the elevator at the the hotels.
I was gonna say that. I was like, one of us gotta step off, because we started adding up the 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 bowling balls that each of us had. Gosh, and then, well, to touch on that, we'd always stop if we went 94 south. We always had to stop at what, Ed?
KFC buffet in Toma.
They did not make any money.
Oh my gosh. It's funny you mentioned that because I remember a junior tournament that I shot, and they talk about it now as the loser meal when you don't make the cut, you don't cash or anything like that, and what did you have to eat on the way out of town? So we're in Alexandria, Minnesota, which is, I want to say, maybe 2.5, 3 hours from where you guys are at.
Yep.
And, I probably bowled the worst, tournament of my junior career. And we stopped at a KFC buffet. And the 2 guys who were bowling in the tournament and me, and I think one of their moms was with us. And the 2 other guys, there's this window with a bunch of flies on it. And these guys are going up to the flies and like flicking them, and the flies are, going like that and continuing on their way. So I reach over and try to flick it, and I just, killed it. Like, flush against the window. So there's my KFC buffet story.
Oh, man. That KFC buffet. I'm sweating just thinking about it.
Nobody wanted to drive after that either because everyone just slept.
Sure.
What are you talking about? I drove all the time.
Yeah, I didn't have to worry about that. It was great.
Yeah. When you were talking about how you went from not having enough to having alternates. So on a team like yours, like ours, there were no coaches. So how do you decide who's in and who's out?
Well, we decided kind of as a team. One thing, the guy who wasn't bowling well usually took himself out. And that was usually me. And because I think, by the time our senior year, we realized when enough was enough. And it was nice to have a 6th person. I mean, it came in really handy because senior year ACY qualifying, I think, was in Whitewater. I had mono. So I wasn't able to go. And so Teague Druckery took my spot. Well, he was always on the team, but those 5 went while I stayed home. And then we think we had to have a roll off to see who was going to be the 5th. And then, you all go, and most of us, Teague and I probably bowled the same amount at the ACY Nationals in Omaha. But yeah, it was nice to have a 6, especially getting sick like that.
Yeah. Ben, you were a pretty regular anchor player. I'm guessing you weren't sitting on the bench too much.
There was one time, I think my first year, I remember where we were, maybe Oshkosh. I took myself out, or I think Ed came over and put his hand on my shoulder. And because Dan was the alternate at that time, at that exact game or whatever, because we were bowling Baker maybe, or I can't, either way. But he put his hand on my shoulder, and I got so angry, not because I was being taken out, it's just that I let down the team, and I was like, fork this, and and Dan actually was, because the subs all were practicing, and I think he had like a 279 game, so it was like a no-brainer. So that was the only time that I remember being taken out or not bowling. So, but who's ever got the hot hand?
Yeah. Tell me about, I guess, you mentioned ACUI. You guys won the whole thing, if I'm not mistaken, at some point.
Yeah, that was our claim to fame, the NIT of bowling. So, yeah, like I said, we'd never been. So the year before I came, the team went to nationals, but I think they had some bowlers that didn't normally bowl on the team, but they came out for ACUI because it's kind of like a whole, I don't know. ACUI is all about like the rec center, the university rec centers.
Yeah, I think the eligibility was a little different back then.
It was a little bit different. So, but there were some guys that came in and they were really good bowlers, and they ended up going nationals. So then when we came on, we didn't even sniff it for 3 years. So the guys qualified in Whitewater without me, and we went to Omaha, and that was quite the experience, man. It was Baker mostly, right, Ben? I think it was.
Yeah. Yep.
I think there was like maybe one shift of individual, but it was mostly Baker, and it was just a lot of games. I remember my thumb was just done. What's that?
It was 30 games because
30 games.
I mean, like you bowled, 2 frames, so it ended up being like, wasn't. I mean, I guess when you're going with 2 frames, but yeah, it was at least 30 games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But from what I remember of nationals was the 3 teams: Lindenwood, and I want to say Saginaw Valley and Wichita. Lindenwood, number 1, they were not very happy that we won. I mean, we were the redheaded stepchild of all the teams there, I think.
Yeah, people were actually rooting against us in the finals.
Yeah.
So it was we beat Lindenwood, and there was some kind of trash talking going back and forth with Greg Sperber and the Lindenwood guys, and then we bowled Weber State in the finals.
Yes, that was another one.
And Oshkosh had left. So they weren't even there to cheer us on. Those were our boys, and they left. They had to get out of there. So we seriously didn't have anybody cheering us on. I think the Whitewater women's team, was there, and they were cheering us on.
I mean, I can see why. I mean, we were throwing a lot of Brooklyns and getting away with a lot of breaks, and they were, I don't know, they're obviously sound teams, and you don't want to lose to, I guess, our caliber or whatever.
Right. The Lindenwood team was pretty bitter because they lost in their sectionals to go to the real nationals.
Sure.
Yeah.
And is it IBC?
Mm-hmm.
I think it was called. So they were kind of bitter, and they thought they were better than everybody, and they were really good bowlers. But we beat them, and they say it's because we kept throwing Brooklyns, which is half true. And
hey. Whatever knocks them down, right?
Yeah. So, that was a pretty good day.
Yeah, I remember there was probably at least three or four times where I was the anchor, so I bowled 5 and 10 frames, and I had to strike out in order for us to either win. I mean, actually, to win the whole thing, I had to get at least the first 2, and then just count. But towards the end, I remember. Over the last few years, I've changed the pitch of my thumb, but at the time, my thumb would swell right on the big knuckle. So I was only putting my thumb in about halfway, towards the end of the day. And man, it was like I could barely hold on to the ball. But just to have that experience with the guys bowling, the Ed, Derek, and all them guys, and being put in that position to not only win, but just do it as our team, the way we do it, the way we always did it, the light 5-7 trips, the Ed tripping 4s. That's
it.
that should be our team name, tripping 4s.
Ben, do you remember our car rides? Like somebody bought radios. So this is, none of us had cell phones. someone bought two-way radios, so we were radioing each other back and forth because we had two different cars. Because I didn't have the certification to get a maxi van, so we had to get two different cars, and we had radios that were talking to each other back and forth on the way there.
Yeah.
Well, that's something else.
One of my favorite stories is in Iowa, the ATMs in Iowa are called Shazams, right?
Okay.
So we were in Iowa, and I don't remember if it was Ben or Greg or somebody, but I went to the ATM and I saw it said, "Welcome to Shazam." So we're leaving Iowa, and I said, "What city were we in?" And somebody straight face goes, "Oh, we were in Shazam." because the ATM said, "Welcome to Shazam." So we were in Shazam, Iowa.
Never found it again.
No.
Yeah. So, okay, so you guys end up, going through having the college experience. You graduate college. You both end up in Minnesota. How do you then end up on the same team? Was it immediate, or was there some time in between graduation and when that happened?
It was years. It was years because I lived in Nebraska for 2 years, and then I moved up here, and I actually started bowling at Lariat Lanes in Richfield.
Okay.
And then that closed down. I bowled there for about 4 years. It was like a 10 or 12 lane house. It was awesome. And it closed down, and then we went to Southtown. And then, like Ben said, it was 4 years ago is when we started messaging, and then start bowling together.
Okay. And, tell me about that league, Ben. Southtown, I'm familiar with that place. I've bowled a couple tournaments there. It's a pretty big center. I want to say maybe 48 lanes.
Yeah.
I don't know about 40. It's big.
Yeah.
32?
No, it's more than that.
Okay.
30, I want to say it's 36, but actually to touch on work, when I moved to right after college, I moved in with Andy in Zumbrota, and I bowled with him and Derek, his family for a couple of years at Evergreen Lanes. And then I moved to Rochester and bowled Colonial Lanes for a couple of years there. And I literally, the first night of that league, I just moved to town. And I went down there. I was like, "Hey, I'm a sub, looking to get on a team." And who would you think they put me on as a sub or a permanent person? They were looking for someone, but good old Mike Rowe, if you remember.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Lacrosse, right?
Yeah, from lacrosse. So I bowled with Mike bowled with him for 3-4 years, and then moved up to the cities and bowled Clarities, and then that's when we finally moved down to Southtown. I mean, I bowled at Cedarvale while bowling at Southtown, but as far as Southtown I would rather 100% bowl at Cedarvale. The carry may be a little bit different at Southtown. You catch a lot more pocket 710s or what have you, but the approaches are not as good as Cedarvale. They're way too slick, I think. I've bowled a couple of tournaments there where if you can't have comfortable footing, I don't think you're going to do that well in anything.
Okay. And yeah, Cedarvale actually put in new approaches, new lanes, ahead of the PWBA tournament there. I want to say in either 18 or 19.
I want to say 18 because I did the pro-am there in 18, and then I came back in 19 and I didn't bowl, and then last year was the pandemic, so
sure,
2018.
Yeah, we did that kind of opposite because I bowled the pro-am in 19 and didn't bowl in 18. I had some kind of conflict, but that's an incredible event that Brent puts on there.
Yeah, that was awesome. I mean, to bowl with I actually got paired up first with Liz Johnson, and I mean, she's very similar or I'm very similar to her. I mean, she's obviously way more accomplished, but I'm more similar to her style of of down and in, Ed, you're down and in, not I mean, I don't have a hand. I actually had Scott Poole, the pro shop guy there. You know, we looked at my rev grade and it's like, I think like 310. So it's really nothing. So bowling with Liz, and I think I bowled with Kelly Kulik second, and I can't remember who I bowled with third. Guerrero. But yeah,
Guerrero.
Is it Claudia?
Yeah.
What's her first?
But yeah, it was an awesome event just to see how professionals bowl like that. I mean, it was really good, really cool.
Yeah. Ed, did you do either of the pro-ams?
No, I did a program back when I was in like middle school at the Boulevard. It was a PBA regional event, and I think I won. I think because I got like I went home and all of a sudden like my mom answers the phone or something. It's like you won. We got to go get your medal.
I don't care.
It was I can't remember if I was middle school or not, but it was that was a cool event.
Sure. Yeah. Tell me about what it's like now. I mean, you guys are at Cedarvale. I want to say you bowl on that Tuesday night league there.
Yeah.
So Ed, what's it like now, you know, bowling with Ben in this arena, we'll say?
It's fun, man. We have a great time. Ben is like the envy of all the old guys in the league. Well, first of all, he's a secretary and carries around a briefcase, which is amazing.
But in the Hall of Fame, guys.
But Ben is one of the top bowlers in the league, so everybody wants to come over and talk to Ben, and it's pretty funny. The group of guys who bowl with, I met them the first time when I came to bowl, and they're friends of mine now too, and I don't know. We have a good time. Tuesday nights is one of those nights you look forward to.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Ben, you have had some success, and I'll say it in 10 years apart. You've got 857 series in two different houses. What's that like to throw an 857?
Yeah, so the first one is down at Rec Lanes in Rochester, which between Colonial and Rec Lanes is like the Texatonka lanes up here.
Sure.
Lot looser carry. So there I started out 300, 267. So I had the front seven of the second game. So I had 19 in a row at one point, and then went 290 the last game. So that was, like, I don't think I slept that night when I got home because it was one of those. I actually called, because that was the league that I didn't bowl with Mike Rowe, and I called him at like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, woke him up, and I said, "Are you sitting down? I just bowled 857." And, you know, it was just, I don't know, it was incredible. And then a long gap in between those big eights, but I've had a few 811, 803, 802, or no, 805, a few 300s, but this last one at the end of last year, it was probably the most solid. I don't think there was, besides a trip 4 or a light mixture, they were all buried. So it was just one of those nights where every shot was the same, 10 in the pit. And the last shot would have been, if I would have carried the fill ball, it would have been 280, which would have put me at 858. So it would have been a new high, and it, ring 10, and I was like, I've never been so bummed to shoot 857 because I just tied my high series.
Poor Ben.
Yeah, I know.
I think I missed that. I don't think I was bowling that night.
Yeah.
No, well,
because you texted me.
Oh, actually the worst shot was the fill ball in the 300. I pulled it and it went high and tripped 4-7. That was, I think, the worst shot of the night.
Okay. Do you remember what ball you were throwing for each of those?
The Forge. I switched to Motive a few years ago just because I've had a little more success out at nationals. Just with the control break points and just the overall look of all their balls. So Forge Flare, and I've changed my whole arsenal over to Motive.
Okay. So, and I'm kind of going back and forth in the whole, span of time here, but, early in the year in 2020, you have the pandemic, and everybody's got a choice to make. Do you bowl? Do you stay home? Obviously, you guys have that choice to make because you're bowlers and you're involved in this league. So let's start with Ed. Tell me about that decision, and how do you go about making that decision on whether to bowl when the pandemic really starts hitting home?
I don't remember if I bowled last year.
Okay.
I didn't bowl last year, and I can't remember
You did
why.
because you had your second kid.
Yeah, but he was a year already. I don't remember. I didn't bowl last year. So when the pandemic...
Nadej had her class, had her French class, or Spanish class.
Oh, yeah. So I think, I wasn't bowling at the time.
Okay.
I went out and met the guys like right around Christmas time. I had a drink because it's Christmas.
Sure.
Yeah.
And and then I didn't bowl, and then I came back this year.
Okay. Was it different when you came back?
Oh yeah, definitely, because now it's two shifts, and it's just your team on a pair. And I remember the first night, Ben's like, "Okay, we're first shift. We start at 6:30. Second shift starts at 8." I can't remember. I think I left at like 8:30 that night from the first shift, and Ben said the second shift didn't get done until 11 o'clock at night. Oh. So a lot of things change after that. Telling people on the team, because it's a handicap league, so not many people are been bowling for a long periods of time. They're out there just to have fun, and even though it's just your team on the lane, you got to remind them, let's get going. Yeah. Because people weren't doing it. People were waiting until, we're in a five person team. So people were waiting until the anchor got done to start the next frame. So there was a little change there. And then we got what do we have? 8 weeks off, Ben?
7 or 8. Then we had that snow where we canceled. So yeah, we had 8 or 9 weeks off.
Yeah.
So we've just been back for like 3 weeks now.
Sure. Ben, how about in your in your world there? You were obviously bowling last year. How did that decision come about for you?
Well, when we ended, we didn't know, like, whenever, about this time last year, maybe a little later, February, March, we were, what's it going to look like? Is our league's going to cancel? And all of a sudden, the Walls came out and said, for the next 4 or 6, whatever it was. I remember when the first shutdown happened, we're like, well, we'll just start back up maybe in, April and finish out the season. Well, obviously that never happened. So then we're like, well, it'll be fine by the time we get to August and we have our captain's meeting and we start in September, the first week of September. So we'll be fine. And all of a sudden, it starts to get in July, and it started kind of opening back up June, July. We're like, well, we got to figure this out with the new rule. We're going to have to we can only go to 25%, which means, as I alluded to, we have to do 2 shifts. So this is my second year being the secretary, so I kind of had to coordinate everything with the lanes, with Brent and Gail, the lady there who does all the scoring and stuff. So for me, it was a no-brainer. It was a conversation I had to have at home saying, my big sell was, well, who's going to be the secretary? No, the league can't happen, And she's like, well, somebody, if you don't go, like when there's bad weather, she always wants me to stay home, and I'm just like, well, honey, who's going to hand out the envelope? Have some prestigious.
He's kind of a big deal. He's kind of a big deal.
Yeah. Well, so it was a no-brainer for me. And then, that once the second shutdown that happened in end of November, there was, man, are we even going to start back up? But, obviously we did 3 weeks ago, and, it's been fine. And now it's mask only, even though we're loosey-goosey. Ed wears his mask constantly, so.
Damn right. I was the only I was the only one in the league that did it. Me and the backup running back for the Minnesota Vikings were the only ones that wore our mask in the league.
Wait a minute. The backup running back for the Minnesota Vikings?
Yep, Alexander Madison bowled 1 week in our league.
Whoa.
Yep, Ben sent text messages to all of us.
So bowled first shift, and our team bowled second, so they weren't there. And one of the workers, his name's Troy, who came over. He was bowling that shift, and he comes over and he goes, "Yeah, it's Alex over there." And I'm a Packers fan. And I go, "Who's that?" He's a backup running back. I'm like, "Well, they just lost, so shouldn't he be on the field practicing?" I don't know.
After that week, I think the Vikings had like a COVID case or something. I can't remember. Something happened, and we never saw him again.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. That's interesting. Oh.
Yeah.
So where do you go from here? What are the goals? And I'm sure they're different for both of you. But Ed, let's start with you for bowling. Is it just simply about having fun, or are you shooting for, big series, big games, tournaments, anything like that?
Well, I'm not a tournament guy anymore, Fef. So it's not. I mean, yes, it's about fun, but there's a competitive spirit, in me that I've had ever since I was a kid, and obviously I want to do good. I might get upset here and there. Maybe did once or twice last night. But I want to. I've only averaged over 200 once in my career, and that was at UW-Stout Rec Center.
Okay.
So that's a goal. I'm averaging 193 right now. And, I haven't been bowling consistently throughout the years. I stopped when my youngest was born. I didn't bowl last year, kind of on and off. But I always want to improve. I'm always trying, I always say I'm trying to be the top Kreitzman for the week. So I always talk to my mom and dad on what their scores are, because they bowl Monday nights and then I bowl Tuesday.
Okay.
So whenever I bowl good, I always say I'm the top Kreitzman. And when I don't, then I don't tell them my scores.
I'm guessing after a while they're going to know something's up.
Yeah, I think they've caught on already.
Oh boy, Ben, how about you? I mean, you had mentioned going to the Open Championships and things like that. Are your goals more tournament based, or is there something different there?
Yeah, there was a long time. I mean, besides if you take nationals and state out of the year and you just have league. I bowled the Chippewa Valley once. I bowled Colonial match games a couple times. I bowled lacrosse a couple times. But over the last 5-6 years, I really haven't bowled tournaments. My goal each year is to have the highest average in the league, have the highest game, and have the highest series. Obviously our team to win, but it's not like you go to bowl, you're bowling in your league to win a lot of money. So, I just try to use that as my practice. And I told myself last year when I threw the 857, I started and that's why I was really bummed when the pandemic hit, because I think my last night I had 771 and averaging pretty good for the year. And I told my wife that I was like, I think I'm going to get out there and start bowling some more tournaments. And then the pandemic hit, and I was like, damn it. So then in November, I think early November, when we were back to bowling, or maybe October, I decided to bowl the Twin Cities Masters, which was at Jakula's. I got paired on the same lanes as Nick Pate. So I was like, great. I haven't bowled a tournament in 4 years, and I'm bowling against literally a professional.
He was just on TV the week before.
Right, yeah. Because I was like, he was wearing his mask, and I just saw him on on TV the week before, and I was like, God, is that Nick Pate? And I managed to get a glimpse of his scorecard. I was like, oh, yep, might as well break the cherry, pop the cherry with my first tournament, bowl next professional, and he did not miss the pocket the entire day.
That's his home house, if I remember.
Yeah. So watching him bowl was pretty remarkable. Him starting on a fresh shot at third, fourth arrow, and I'm barely squeezing it, to wrinkle a couple boards. But I try to stay consistent. I think I was plus 160 after 7. The cut was going to be around 220, 230. So going into the last game, I was like, well, I got to have something big. Started out with the front 6, then 7, then 8, then front 10, and then 11. And I was like, oh shit, I'm at the USB Masters about to throw 300. I was nervous, but not like with like the whole lanes watching, and I thought I would be way more nervous than I was because I hadn't touched I think front 8 since last year. So it left my hand, and I was like, that's my spot. I'm good there. Whatever happens, happens. And it was a mixing 7-pin that I left, and I was like, oh. But I made the cut, and then lost the first game by missing a spare, and then lost my second match to be eliminated by missing a spare. So I don't know. First time back in a couple of years making the cut. I think I bowled pretty well, but just for me, I think bowling tournaments, and I think and I always look at bowling nationals trying to average at least 205, 210 out there. So
sure, yeah. All right, so let's go to what we call the foundation frame, the foundation of this program being the viewers. And we've had several live viewers here who have put up some notes in the chat. This is from Michelle Retzloff saying, yes, Ed live. What could go wrong?
Michelle knows a lot could go wrong.
Is this your fault, all these technical difficulties? I think it's my fault. That's I haven't stayed up to date with with this stuff. My buddy Joe Buchholz in Milwaukee, the excitement of live TV, and yeah, there is definite excitement when when you're going live like this. You never know what could happen. Technology has a way of biting you when you least expect it. Cedarvale guy, Brent Prentice from Cedarvale Lanes, the owner there. Hello, folks. He says that he has talked to Neil Milligan with the PWBA, and it looks like we're on for April, which is great news.
So they'll do another Pro-Am?
I would assume so. They have they've had their tournament, the Twin Cities Open, scheduled, booked for quite a while here. I don't know details yet, but yeah, I mean, if he says we're on for April, at least that means the pros will be competing. As far as Pro-Am or any of the other extracurricular stuff, not sure. And Brent had also mentioned that 878 is the house high from Sam Sylvester on lanes 13 and 14, and Ben's is the second highest in Cedarvale Lanes history. And that goes back a lot of years, Ben.
Yeah. Actually, the week after that, I was looking at the board. I was just wondering to see what the high was. But yeah, I followed that too, and I was like, well, 878, that's a goal.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think he earned that.
No kidding. So the other thing that we do at the end of our shows is called Off the Sheet. And that's where I ask each of you to challenge somebody who would be good to be interviewed on this show, to do an interview. So let's start with Ed. Ed, who would you like to challenge to be on Bowling with the Fef?
Who would I like to challenge?
Yeah.
I think I'd like to challenge my parents.
Okay.
So my mom, Pat Kreitzman, she's a member of the Madison Bowling Hall of Fame. And my dad is a prestigious member of the 190 Club of Watertown Bowl in the early 1970s. So that's two bowling legends right there.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I would love to have them on separate together, whatever they'd prefer. Pat, Bill, let me know. We will make it happen.
I would have to drive to Madison and help them their technology, but
you can't use a rotary phone, Ma.
That would be worth it, though, right? You'd do that.
Huh?
7 o'clock.
Oh, Ben, why don't you take it off the sheet? What? Who would you like to challenge to be on Bowling with the Fef?
Gosh, Ed took mine, so I'll just have to go. I don't know. I mean, I would love to hear from JJ. JJ Shoe, old Oshkosh.
Oh yeah. Yes.
He was. I don't know. Just watching him bowl, it was pretty cool to watch too. He's the only one that I've ever seen bowl 2 300s in the same 6-game block. So.
Okay.
And JJ, you never heard the ball hit the lane.
Nope. And he had the highest back swing.
Yeah, so smooth.
Well, you know, as luck would have it, JJ is actually scheduled to be our guest next week.
Oh, really?
So
nice.
he is in for the challenge, and you're actually the second one to challenge him because Kyle Blasey also challenged him to be on.
Of course he did.
So, so yeah, we're going to hear from JJ next week. On Tuesday, it's Groundhog Day. So JJ is going to tell us if he saw his shadow and if we can expect, you know, an early spring or if we're going to be, you know, stuck inside in winter. Of course, I think he's in one of the Carolinas, so it probably isn't going to matter as much for him. But we'll be, you know, sitting on the edges of our seats, waiting to see what he has to say. But no, that's another one that I'm looking forward to. And yeah, that's next Tuesday,
Well,
February
if that's
2nd.
Tuesday, then I'll pick Brent Prentice.
Okay. All right. And yeah, I'd love to have Brent on too. We've kind of been talking back and forth about that. He's I think he's going to be on sometime in the near future. We're working on it, but yeah, he'd be a good one too. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for being on tonight. I know it was a little rough getting here, but eventually, you know, we made it work.
Right?
Yeah.
Thanks
All
a lot,
right.
Fef.
Ed Kreitzman, Ben Witt, thank you so much. And again, we will be back on next Tuesday, February 2nd, as you heard, with JJ Shu, talking about his unique bowling story and plenty of other good stuff. Again, if you're interested in being on as a guest, let me know. You can go to our forum at bit.ly/bowlingwiththefef or hit me up on Facebook. We have our own public group now. Just search Bowling with the Fef. It's the first one to come up. You can find out all kinds of interesting facts about bowling and be on the I guess have your ear to the ground as far as our live streams when we're going to be on the YouTube channel and a lot of other stuff with that. I'm Andrew Pfeffer, the Fef, saying be just and fear not, and we will see you next week. Have a great one, everybody.